Hello everyone, it's Marcy again. I have another journal I want to share with you guys. This one is, as you'll be able to tell by the title, Fairies and Gnomes. So it has lots of images of gnomes and fairies, woodland things and gardens, and so nature and leaves and flowers and all that goodness, which I'll show you in a bit. So it is another fabric cover. I'm really loving these fabric covered ones. They're a lot of fun to work with. This is some upholstery, excuse me, I catch my breath, getting all excited. Some upholstery fabric that has all this beautiful florals on it and golds and a black background, so I really liked that. I added a tassel with a garment pin on the side. It's attached with the lobster clasp. It's a little bit cloudy. Well, the sun keeps, it's partially cloudy today. Let's do it there, so it might get brighter. We have a tassel with all these pretty colors of ribbons and laces and eyelash trims and fibers that I think just kind of draw on the florals of the fabric. It is closed with this sari silk ribbon that is attached at the spine, and the signatures are sewn into the spine. It is about 6 1/4 by 9 1/2. So, and a lot of that is just to allow for the fringe around the edge, the extra space. So, this fabric frays really pretty, very prettily. On the inside cover, I sewed this vintage, what is this called? It's embroidery, but it has another name. Anyways, flowers on a vintage, I can't think, table runner. This is one end of the table runner, and it just fits so well in there that I just made a front and back pocket. In the front pocket, I have a book page from, there are several pages in here. I won't tell you every time what they're from. They're from a children's story and poetry book from 1966. So vintage images of fairies along the frame there. And there's a little poem about elves and fairies and giants and possibly other mythical creatures in that pocket. This is a vintage music book cover that I got from Graphics Fairy. I printed that on some cardstock. Made a pocket on this side. Okay, and there will be a bunch of pictures of gnomes in here. Not a bunch, but quite a few, and I just want to show you where those came from. They came from this book called Gnomes. Here are the authors. I'm not going to attempt to say their names. This is 1977, so it's what am I trying to say? Not terribly old, but I really loved the imagery. I suggest if you ever see that book, pick it up and read it. It is the cutest book. It's all about gnomes and facts about them and such. We have a puffy sticker here of a butterfly. Sari silk ruffle sewn on this pocket. Got some fairy dust in here. I don't know. Hopefully you can see. It's all sparkly. In this little glass jar. In the pocket we have some vintage images of fairies. Warwick Goebel has beautiful fairy images that are from 1800s. So, very beautiful pictures that I put several of in here. This is also from the Gnomes book. It has to do with elderberries, their healing properties, and poppies. There are several of those throughout the book. This is from the Gnome book. A little gnome carrying his wood. Pine cone, they use those for shingles. This is a piece of canvas cut into a tag shape, and then I stamped some images and a dragonfly and sewed that on there. It's another one from the children's book called Secondhand Shop. It's just clipped in there with paper clip with some fibers. This is one of my watercolor paintings of some mushrooms. A vintage gardening book with some ferns and a doily, coffee-dyed doily. It's another one of those Goebel paintings. A little bit of hand-carved stamp there. This is a sparkly little frame. I've had these for a long time now. They're K & Company little acetate frames, and I just put some coffee-dyed paper behind it for a journaling spot. A vintage image of some mushrooms. It's been inked, and I made it look like it was taped in with some masking tape. Another one of the gnome books. This one has to do with games and child gnomes and the games that they play. A bird fabric flip. Some butterflies stitched on, and I collaged on some sparkly tissue paper there. A hand-carved stamp. A clip here with some sari silks. Got sari silks sewn down the edge, and a little charm, feather charm, and a bead pinned on. Another one of those Goebel paintings printed out. Got little, they remind me of children because of the bright colors and the flowers. Some little fairies, and this is just some coffee-dyed writing paper. Butterfly stamp. Some ferns. I believe you can see, yes, there's some gold gilding on that. That's stenciled on. This is a vintage playing card that I used for a tuck spot. Some stamping. This is a vintage image of some blue flowers that I put on there. Some stenciling. Some more stamping. I loved how these papers came out with a green, bluish green, whatever you call that, color. I really love that. It's more of the gnome book. They're playing, it's the other side of the game one. I like the little bunny. Some more children playing games. The Child and the Fairies, another poem that I just clipped in here, and it's on coffee-dyed paper. Got a little pink tulip stenciled on there, and I inked up the ribbon with some of the pink ink. Got a little fairy bell. I love the little jingle. Reminds me of Tinkerbell, of course. Who can't think of Tinkerbell when thinking of fairies? Got a tag down here with a little butterfly charm on it. Some pattern papers, coffee dye, just for some extra journaling space. Another watercolor painting. Sari silk. I'm trying to think. This is vintage wallpaper. I like this because it reminds me of carved wood, and gnomes, of course, build their homes in and under trees, according to the book, and they do a lot of wood carving and woodwork, so that made me think of the gnomes. Another beautiful fairy vintage image. Another vintage fairy image. In this pocket is another one of those things from the gnome book. This is plants that they would collect for certain illnesses and whatnot for their cures. And they're backed with some coffee-dyed paper and stitched around. This is a vellum. It's printed on vellum and just collaged on here of these roses, I believe they are. I wanted to say poppies at first, but they are some vintage roses. Got some eyelash trim sewn on the edge. Sari silk tag. Some stenciling. Acorn stamps. Another little stamp. Some more from the gnome book. It says he may take care of the firewood supplies or pick berries. I thought that was super cute. And this is talking about a garden gnome. He's tending the garden. Another one of those cure cards, home remedies. Little gnome with the bird. It says here, 7 times as strong as a man. And that's just clipped in with a little, I'm pushing my book away, a little clothespin that I inked up. Got a stamped dragonfly here and some stenciling of some leaves. The other side of the music book. Yeah, coffee-dyed paper. Another image printed on vellum and collaged on. Got a little leaf charm up here on this lace. A gnome waving to, looks like a deer, an elk. This here, these pictures, I apologize, they're a little risque. It's just how they were in the book, so I went with it. And this is a printed image. I'll show you that. This is in the Gnome book. It talks about other creatures of the forest that are not seen often. You have to believe in them to see them. This is called an elf in the book, but it looks an awful lot like a fairy to me. I get them confused, elves and fairies. I don't know. According to J.R.R. Tolkien, they're nothing alike. Anyway, it's a vintage image that I got from Graphics Fairy. It's in this little pocket here that was made of a magazine image of a dragonfly. So another one of my watercolor paintings with a mushroom. A picture of a rose from a book, a gardening book. Some stenciled fern on some book paper. A pocket here with some flowers, poppies and roses. A vintage fairy image. And another one of those gnome, I don't know, you know what I'm talking about. A butterfly. Another one of those Cane Company. I want you to see the sparkles. Not necessarily the glare, but the sparkles. Got butterflies or butterfly and flower, and got coffee dye in the back so you can journal in that spot. A little feather with some beads down here on this lace. Some writing paper and another gnome card. A vintage image of fairies playing music and singing. A little stamp, another hand carved stamp. A gnome, he's collecting deer hair because they make clothes out of that. A little gnome here, he's getting ready to chop something down with an axe. Magic Happens stamp. Another poem from the children's book. A tuck spot with a butterfly and some fairy images and just some extra writing paper. Another image printed on vellum and collaged on. A doily with a little stamp. Glassine envelope with a vintage fairy image. And another stamp. Some stenciling. This is from the Gnome book as well. Here's a gnome. He's ice skating. And little leaves. Here, my battery is about to die, so I need to hurry. Plus, I've been making really long videos lately. Got a little owl charm. And I'm trying to cut them down because, A, it takes hours and hours for me to upload them. I don't know why. I need to see about updating my, what is it called? My internet provider. Apparently, I need to contact them because it's crazy. Got a little doily, some acorn stamp, paper clip clipping in another poem from the children's book. It's about pansies. And some sari silk tab. This is where it talks about the cloth making, what they collect and use to make their clothes. The gnomes, of course. See, it says here, doe hair. That's what he's collecting on the other page. Got some little, these are little fabric leaves that are stitched in here on some sparkly tissue paper. Another one of my watercolor paintings that I put in here of daisies, a tab with another little bell and a bead on it. Some more lace on this large pocket, another one of those cards, and a tag for journaling. I'm trying to rush. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if that bothers you, but I tend to talk too much and just, anyways, yeah. A vintage rose image on some vellum, collaged on. Some eyelash trim. Little flowers stenciled on here. A stamp. A flip out with a vintage image of mushrooms, also with some tape. Some leaves collaged on there. Another pocket with some a journaling card, and another one of those gnome, you know what I mean. And it's backed with coffee dyed paper. They all are. It says here, other twilight and night beings. That's what they call them. And it lists a bunch of them. This has to do with their language, and I put this near the back because I really liked that it has their word for goodbye, and it's translated to goodbye. And he looks like he's walking off the page. It's a cute little gnome there in the pasture. dragonfly stamp, another one of those plant cards with a little butterfly charm on this clip. And here's the back pocket with some extra journaling paper. It's been coffee dyed. And a little gnome on his swing. And that is also backed with coffee dyed paper and stenciled. So there is the journal called Fairies and Gnomes. I hope you liked that, and if all of the details will be down in the description. So let me know what you think. Thanks, guys. Bye.